They say a dog is man's best friend. They don't know the half of it. They don't know what it's like to lay in the dust, listening to the crackle of enemy fire, and know that the creature next to you, the one panting softly, the one whose life you hold in your hands, is the only reason you're still breathing. For me, that was Max. And he wasn't just a dog, he was my partner. He was my brother, and he was a hero. My name is Sergeant Chris Miller. I was an EOD technician in Iraq, 2007. That stands for Explosive Ordnance Disposal. Basically, if there was a bomb, I was the guy who went to go find it. And if there was a bomb, Max was the one who found it first. I grew up in rural Michigan. My father was a hunter, and I grew up with dogs, labs, retrievers, a couple of mutts. So when I joined the Army and they told me I was going to be paired with a military working dog, I thought, okay, I can do this. I was always good with animals. I met Max at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. He was a German Shepherd, sleek, black and tan, maybe 2 years old. When they first brought him out, he was all business. Didn't bark, didn't wag his tail, just looked at me with these intelligent, intense, brown eyes. The handler, a grizzled old master sergeant, threw a worn-out tennis ball. Max exploded. A blur of fur and muscle, snatched the ball mid-air, and brought it back, dropping it right at the master sergeant's feet. No fuss. "This is Max," the sergeant said. "He's an IED detection dog. Best nose in the business. Your life and the lives of your entire platoon will depend on him. Don't screw it up." Training was intense. They taught me how to read him. A slight twitch of his ear, a subtle change in his gait, the way his nose would lift, just a millimeter to catch a scent, I couldn't even imagine. He wasn't just finding explosives. He was sniffing out the chemical components that made explosives. He was a walking, sniffing bomb laboratory. We learned to move as one. I'd walk the patrol route, scanning the ground, looking for disturbed earth, wires, anything out of place. Max would be ahead of me, his nose to the ground, methodically sweeping back and forth. His job was to find the thing that was designed to kill us. My job was to disable it. Our first deployment was to Iraq, to a forward operating base outside of Baghdad. The heat hit us like a physical blow. 120 degrees. Max handled it better than I did. I was sweating through my fatigues. He was just focused. The IED threat was constant. Every patrol, every convoy, every trip outside the wire was a gamble. The insurgents were getting smarter. They were burying bombs deeper, camouflaging them better. But Max was always smarter. I remember our first real find. We were clearing a route for a convoy. Max was maybe 50 yards ahead of me, nose to the ground. Suddenly, he froze. Not a full alert sit, which meant a confirmed find. This was a subtle pause, a stiffening. His tail, usually held high, dropped just a fraction. I raised my hand, signaling the patrol to halt. I took a deep breath. Max turned his head, just slightly, and looked at me. His eyes were wide. He was telling me, "It's here. It's definitely here." I gave him the search command. He moved forward, slowly, meticulously, his nose working the air. He circled a pile of trash bags. Then he sat down. Not just sat, he planted himself, right in front of a half-buried plastic jug. Confirmed. I walked up, heart pounding. My training kicked in. I started probing, carefully, with my EOD tools. And there it was. A 5-gallon jug, packed with homemade explosives, connected to a pressure plate trigger. If Max hadn't found it, the lead Humvee of the convoy would have hit it. It would have vaporized them. I disarmed it. It took an hour, under the blazing sun, knowing that a sniper could be watching me, knowing that one wrong move meant I was gone. But Max, he just sat there 10 feet away, watching me. Like he knew. Like he trusted me to do my part, just as I trusted him. When I was done, I walked over to him. I dropped to one knee. I pulled a treat out of my pouch. "Good boy, Max. You're a good boy." He looked at the treat, then at me. Then he nudged my hand with his wet nose. That was his way of saying, You're okay. We did good. That was our routine. He'd find them. I'd disarm them. We saved dozens of lives that way. Sometimes it was just us. Sometimes we'd have a whole squad pulling security, rifles at the ready. But it was always Max and me, out front, playing our deadly game of hide and seek. If you're finding meaning in this journey, in the extraordinary bond forged in the crucible of war, please consider subscribing to the channel. These stories matter. He wasn't just a partner, he was my sanity. Out there, the sand, the heat, the constant fear, it wears you down. But Max was always there. I'd talk to him, tell him about my family, about the girl back home. He'd just listen, occasionally nudging my hand with his nose. He didn't judge, he didn't ask questions, he just was. Our bond grew stronger with every mission. I knew his moods. I knew when he was tired, when he was bored, when he was picking up something new in the wind. And he knew mine. If I was tense, he'd subtly press his side against my leg. A silent comfort. We went on Rod and R to Qatar. It was still hot, but at least there were showers and real food. I bought him a new chew toy. He loved it. We spent a whole day just playing fetch. It was the only time he acted like a regular dog. For a few hours, we weren't in a war zone. We were just two friends, throwing a ball. After Rod and R, we were sent to a new sector. More rural, more dangerous. The IEDs were getting even more sophisticated. Double-stacked, command detonated. The insurgents were using children to plant them. It was a whole new kind of evil. One morning, we were on a route clearance mission. Out in the middle of nowhere. Just a dirt road, flanked by date palm groves. Max was running his sweep. I was a few yards behind him, scanning. My squad was behind me, rifles up. The sun was already baking the desert. It was quiet. Too quiet. My gut was tightening. Max was working his way past a small, abandoned sedan on the side of the road. His nose was to the ground, methodical. Then he stopped. Not the subtle freeze. This was different. He snapped his head up. His ears went flat. A low, guttural growl rumbled in his chest. His fur bristled. He looked at the car. Then he looked at me. His eyes, they were full of terror and urgency. "Max?" I whispered. He didn't just sit. He barked. A sharp, urgent, panicked bark. Not his normal alert. This was a danger bark. He was telling me, "Get back, now." I felt it then. The vibration. A faint, almost imperceptible tremor in the ground beneath my feet. And I heard the click. Distant, but clear. Someone had seen us. Someone was detonating. ED. IED. Get down. I screamed. My squad dropped. I dove. But Max didn't drop. He didn't run. He looked at the car, then at me, and then he launched himself. Not away from the car. He launched himself. Full speed. Directly at me. I was still diving. I felt this incredible impact. 100 pounds of German Shepherd slammed into my chest, knocking the air out of me. He was pushing me, shoving me, trying to get me further away. And then, boom, the world exploded. A white flash, a concussion that stole my breath, my hearing, everything. It felt like I'd been hit by a truck. I felt myself flying through the air, then landing hard. Silence. Then a high-pitched ringing. My ears were screaming. Dust. Smoke. I tried to move. My head was ringing. My legs, they weren't working right. I pushed myself up. I was on my stomach. My leg, it burned. My side burned. I looked back. The car, it was gone. Just a crater. Shrapnel had shredded the date palms. And Max was lying there, about 10 feet from me, motionless. He wasn't moving. "Max," I tried to yell. My voice was a croak. "Max." I crawled to him. My leg was screaming. My side was bleeding. But all I could see was him. He was on his side. His fur was matted with dust and blood. I reached him. I put my hand on his head. "Max, buddy? Come on, boy." His eyes were open. But they weren't seeing. His body, It was still, he was gone. The medics reached me then. They were yelling, "Sergeant Miller, you're hit. You're hit bad." They started working on me, cutting my fatigues. Bandaging, I was trying to push them away. "Max, my dog, is he okay?" A medic looked at him. He put a hand on my shoulder. His voice was gentle. "He's gone, Sergeant. He took the blast for you. You're alive because of him." I screamed. I didn't care who heard me. I just screamed his name. They airlifted me out. I woke up in a hospital in Germany. Landstuhl, white sheets. Clean, no dust, no smell of cordite. A doctor told me what happened. "You're lucky, Sergeant. The shrapnel, it hit your left leg, your side, your shoulder, but the dog, he shielded you from the worst of the blast. He saved your life." He showed me the x-rays, the fragmentation pattern. Max's body had absorbed the brunt of it. I lost my left leg, below the knee, and my left arm had a permanent tremor from nerve damage. But I was alive, and I was going home. I called my parents from Germany. My mom cried, "Oh, Chris, my boy, thank God you're coming home." "I'm okay, Mom," I said, but Max," she just listened. She knew. She understood the bond. I got back to Michigan in a wheelchair. I went through physical therapy, learned to walk with a prosthetic. It was hard. Every step was a reminder. But the biggest pain wasn't in my leg. It was in my chest. The empty space where Max used to be. People would visit, friends, family. "Chris, you're a hero," they'd say. "You sacrificed so much." I didn't sacrifice, I'd say. Max did. And some of them, they just wouldn't get it. "Oh, come on, Chris. He was just a dog. You're a human being. Just a dog." That phrase, it cut deeper than any shrapnel. They didn't see him running ahead, nose to the ground, fearless. They didn't see him sit, telling me where death was hidden. They didn't see him launch himself at me, an act of pure, selfless love. I stopped talking about it. I packed the grief down. It became a heavy, cold knot. I went to veteran support groups. I tried to connect, but the stories were always about people, about other soldiers. I tried to talk about Max, my partner. "Oh, you mean your actual partner? Another soldier?" "No, my dog, Max." They'd look at me with pity, or awkwardness. "Right? Well, that's tough, man." No one understood. It was a loneliness I hadn't expected. I was home, but a part of me was still out there. In the dust, next to Max. I started volunteering at a local animal shelter, just walking dogs, cleaning kennels. It was quiet, therapeutic. One day, they brought in a nervous German shepherd, abuse case. He was terrified of everything. He'd cower in the back of his kennel, shaking. I spent weeks with him, just sitting, talking softly, slowly. He started to trust me. One afternoon, I was sitting with him, gently petting his head. He leaned into my hand, and I felt it. The subtle pressure, the quiet comfort, just like Max used to do. It wasn't a replacement, never. But it was a connection, a way to heal. I still carry the scars, the phantom pain in my missing leg, the tremor in my hand. But I also carry Max, every single day, in my heart, in the way I look at other dogs, in the way I live my life. He wasn't just a dog. He was my brother. He was my partner, and he was a hero. And I will make sure the world knows his story, because it matters, because he deserves to be remembered, and because without him, I wouldn't be here to tell it.